Hi, my name is Rati Oktarini, and this is an English version of my presentation in Kongres Internasional Masyarakat Linguistik Indonesia, or KIMLI, in August 2021. The presentation was titled Pengembangan Open Library of Conversational Indonesian Intent Versi 1, or Towards the Development of Open Library of Conversational Intent for Conversational Indonesia. Imagine you can interact naturally in Indonesian with robots. The machine does not only react to you, but interact. The current paper reports a small step towards to set the groundwork for a conversational agent capable of doing what we imagined just now. A conversational agent is, to put it in a very simple way, is a dialogue system. In this case, a machine, anything that processes natural language and also responds automatically using human language. Apple Siri, Amazon Alexa, IBM Watson, and Microsoft Cortana are some of the conversational agents that are quite familiar with our daily lives. Okay, one of the most common paradigms used in the design of conversation agent is the IECR paradigm, or intent, entity, context, response. One of the components of this paradigm is intent. To put it simply, intent is what an entity or somebody is trying to do through some kind of actions, be it a verbal or non-verbal, be it through a language or not. The idea is a library of conversational Indonesian intent is Indonesian conversation data that has been annotated with its intent. Thus, the data can be viewed by the engine, the machine, and utilized in conversation agent design process. Okay, now let's continue with the linguistic side of this paper. Yeah, what kind of linguistic analysis that we do to build this library? Yeah, let's start with intent. Yeah, intent is a term or notion in conversation design. But yeah, from a linguistic side, we do actually have an equivalent notion, that is action, which is pretty common use in pragmatic and conversation analysis. Yeah. So from there, we already have what in linguistic, the notion that we can use to analyze in linguistic. Yeah, from there we can use the concept of action to unpack as an equivalent of intent. Okay, for those who are not familiar with the conversation analysis approach, let me give you a super fast intro to the thing that we are going to really need for our next discussion in this paper, which is the smallest unit of analysis in CA. What is the smallest unit of analysis in CA? Which is a turn. A turn is a unit of talk when speaker change occurs, regardless of whether it is a sentence, clause, phrase, intonation unit, or even non-linguistic unit, such as wink or inhalation. Yeah, and then a turn consists, this is very important, a turn consists of even smallest unit called turn constructional unit, or TCU. Yeah, for the purpose of the current discussion, I'll just simplify what a TCU is. Yeah, what a TCU is. TCU is any unit in conversation where speaker change may occur. They don't have to occur, but may occur. Any given unit. Clause, phrase, intonation unit, non-linguistic unit, yeah, you name it, where speaker change may occur. Okay, for more comprehensive review on CA analysis or conversation analysis, you can check on my other videos in this channel, especially the What is Conversation Analysis video series. Okay, now how do we identify intent in conversation? Okay, to follow the conversation analysis method, we identify or analyze turn in pairs. The first pair part and the second pair part. The first pair part is the the first action, and then the second pair part is the reaction or response. Okay, where do we start? Okay, I propose 3 steps in intent identification. The first one is the analysis of the first turn. As mentioned in the previous slide, a turn consists of at least 1 TCU, and then we analyze each of the TCU. We first identify the TCU, and then we identify the intent done through each of the TCU. Noting that this step is non-exhaustive, we will get the chance to return to this step or to add or identify more TCUs or intent, as we can see later. Do remember that we use naturally occurring data for our library. By naturally occurring data means a real-life conversation between 2 humans or more. Then the second step is analyzing the second turn or the responsive turn. We do the same steps, namely identifying each of the turn constructional unit and then identify the action done by each of the TCU. Okay, the third step is to pair all the actions identified to be potentially done through the first turn with the ones identified to be potentially done through the second turn. Yeah, which one is the action, which one is the reaction, which one is the action in the first turn, and which one paired to the reaction on the second turn. Yeah, later we can see one example and we can see how this is done. And sometimes we can see that some action in the third step that seems to be quite peculiar and we could not find the pairing in the first turn. If we find anything like that, it warrants a reanalysis of the first action or the first pair part. After seeing the response, we may uncover some potential action in the first turn that was not picked up and reacted picked up and reacted by our participant in the data that we did not see when we did our first round of analysis, the first step of doing the analysis of the first pair part of the first turn. Okay, so what we do is that we return to our first action to try identify which TCU or that the specific responsive action reacted to. And we find the pairing. To give you a taste of how the analysis is done, let me give you one example. 2 turns in a real, naturally occurring conversation. Okay, for the purpose of data analysis and annotation, I convert the video data into multimodal transcripts consisting of conversation transcript and sketch, as shown on the screen just now. The data, to give you a bit of a background of this data, the data was taken from 6 hours of video corpus that I recorded for my PhD project in 2012. The recorded conversation was natural occurring, meaning that it involved minimum intervention from me. I only asked the participant to talk in front of the camera while having dinner together, specifically for this one, while having dinner together. I turned the camera on and just left the participants with the camera. The conversation was not scripted in any way, and the participants were free to choose their whatever they want to talk to. That as natural as could be. The participants for this conversation were close friends, so they interact quite naturally on the camera. Okay, let's return to this piece of data that we have on the screen. So here we have 2 participants. The first one we call Putu, and then the second one we call Made. Made was sitting and eating with her hands, as we can see in the sketch, while Putu was standing on Made's right. Okay, what happened here? I give you a background before going into the verbal interaction. As mentioned, Made was eating while Putu stood up and talked to Made. While looking at Made, Putu patted Made's shoulder and then said, that their friend Ita, line 1 and line 2, as what appear on the screen, their friend Ita had inherited Made's chatty nature. Then, in response, Made expressed her disagreement with Putu's comment just now, and then provide a justification to her agreement in the form of assessment of Ita's demeanors. Putu's behavior, both gestures and words, were labeled as turn 1. Meanwhile, Made's behavior, Made's action, is labeled as turn 2, the response to Putu's action. So turn 1 is the first action or the first pair part, while turn 2, Made's turn, is the second action or the second pair part or the response. Okay, now let's analyze the first turn. We start from the identification of the TCUs of the first turn. Okay, there were at least three verbal TCUs. The first one is mega and then mega is when Putu trying to get Made's attention. Mega and then the next one is the next verbal TCU is Ita kayaknya udah mewarisi sedikit inimu. Ita seems to have inherited this yours, okay. Then the next one is a repair, meaning that she tried to complete what she said earlier by saying speaker aktifmu, yeah, your active speakers. Okay, as a turn, it's the whole meaning of line 1 and line 2, or Putu's turn, Putu's action there, is that Mega Ita seems to have inherited a bit of your active speaker. Yeah, so she couldn't find what's the specific word, and then the third verbal action, repair that, give extra information by saying your speaker active. Okay, other than that, she also performed non-verbal TCUs, two non-verbal TCUs. The first one is the pat, shoulder pat, which happens at the very beginning of the turn, and then the looking at Made. Yeah, looking at Made to address her. So those two are the non-verbal actions done by Putu. Okay, so we have identified the existing TCUs of the first turn. Now, let's identify the action of each of the TCU. Okay, we can see that, we give a very rough identification here of what action that could be done by Putu there, but through her verbal and non-verbal action. Yeah, she did a comparison, comparing, and she also did evaluation or evaluating. And at the same time, by looking at, 1B is by assessing someone, she also invite Made to assess, evaluate, and compare Ita and Putu's demeanor, because Putu, Ita and Made's demeanor, okay. Because Putu compared Ita as Made's demeanor, then she invites Made to come to do the same thing, assess, evaluate, and compare. And she also did a clarifying, because previously she only said this you, inimu, this you. It's a placeholder because she couldn't find the specific word. When the specific word came to her speaker aktifmu, your speaker active, then the whole action is a repair. Yeah. The next one is the non-verbal action. Yes, the shoulder pat. And looking at Made, she is trying to get Made's attention and selecting her as the addressee of her turn. Okay, so we have identified the actions of each of the TCU of the first turn. Now, let's continue to carry out the same steps to the second turn, or the response, or the second pair part, or the second action. Okay, there are at least 3 verbal TCUs on the second turn. The first one is enda, is an elongated no, anda is no. Yeah, here you can see it's elongated. And then the second TCU is kalau Ita kan masih malu-malu. For Ita's case, she is still shy. And then the third TCU is putting them together. Yeah, anda kalau Ita kan masih malu-malu. Yeah, putting them together as a single TCU on its own. Okay, from the analysis, we can identify at least 4 actions done by those 3 TCUs. The first one is a disagreement. Anda, yeah, no is a disagreement. And then account, providing an account to her disagreement. And then an assessment of Ita, her individual or separated assessment of Ita, whether Ita has actually inherited her speaker active, meaning that so talkative. Yeah. And the whole action can be seen because it's a response to Putu's action. Yeah, to Putu's first turn. The whole thing can be seen as a listening and responding to Putu's first turn. Okay, now we have identified the actions of each turn. Now let's continue to pair these actions. Yeah, the pairing can be visualized as what we see on the screen. As we can see, the conversational turn that we analyzed today is rather short and simple, but we could come up with this kind of intent identification and pairing. So we can imagine what kind of intent identification and pairing that we can come up with a more complex turn. Yeah, so this is non-exhaustive. Yeah, if we go deeper through the more details that we can uncover through the action and reaction there, we may come up with more TCUs, with more actions, with more pairing than the one that we already have on the screen. With the advancement of machine learning and big data, I do hope that the process can be automated to come up with a more comprehensive library of pairing of actions and intents, actions or intent. As we can see, what we have on the screen is actually a very simple first and second action pairing. But one thing that we do really know is that they are real because we take them from a real conversation, as not imagined conversation. Yeah, one action for what Mega Ita kayaknya udah mewarisi sedikit inimu, speaker aktifmu. That turn, yeah, the whole turn is a real turn that happens in a real conversation being responded in a certain way that we have specifically here. Okay, now I'm wrapping up my short presentation today. The key takeaway from my current analysis is that the first one is the use of naturally occurring data, a real conversation that really happened in real life. Yeah, not imagined conversation. The second one is the 3 steps for intent identification and pairing, including the extra step of returning to the first action and knowing that whatever we come up with the TCUs, action and action pairing, they are not exhaustive. Okay, and here is, before I close this presentation, and here is one possibility of how we write the pairing result. This one is written using the pseudocode according to Moore and RR 2019 in Appendix B. Yeah, you may also refer to my 2020 paper for an earlier discussion of the model. I explain more in that paper, and link to the paper is available in the description. You may reach out to me through the comment section if you have issue in accessing the paper, or you have any comments that you would like to tell me. Okay, that's all for today, and thanks for your time.